Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the How to Cheat at Geoguessr podcast. It feels like it's been a little while, doesn't it? Because it has. This was supposed to go live last week on Thursday, as we had planned out. Unfortunately, I was banned from Twitch, so it was a little bit difficult to stream. But here we are. It's just another week gone by. You better be more excited. We've been trying to edge you. That's essentially what this is a form of Geoguessr edging. Not hedging. Two different, very different things there. But yeah, welcome. Nice to see everyone in the chat. I can see all the familiar faces, which just fills me with joy. Thankfully for yourselves, and I sincerely mean that, it is not just me tonight. Because by God, you've seen me try to guess in North America. It is pathetic, to say the least. So joining me tonight, I mean, we have got the usual suspects. I mean, first and foremost, I'd like to introduce one of my wonderful co-hosts, Nighty. How you doing tonight, Nighty?
Hey guys, everything's great. Thanks for being here as well. A little bit of a delay, but we all know what happened. Better back now than ever.
We do know what happened, and those responsible know what they did. And I am finding you now. Less of the crazy talk. Another wonderful co-host with me tonight, the fastest man in the West, the lovely Radu, Mr. RC. How you doing tonight, man?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Yeah, straight to the point. That's a speedrunner right there. He doesn't mess about. There's no frilly nonsense. He's good. He's ready. He's ready to get to this episode. I don't blame him. I mean, and last, but not least, our special guest for this episode. You know, there's a few names that come to mind when we talk about America, North America, and Geoguessr. There's some very, very talented players out there. But who better to pick than the man with Chicago in his name? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, Chicago Geographer.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for having me on the show.
When did you obtain this voice, CG?
I was born with it.
You were born. Oh, you were born with it. That's even more impressive if you ask me. It's just a natural talent. Just before we go any further, I will do a little bit of a sound test. I think actually we're all coming through pretty well. Boys, if you just want to just give me some general chit chat and make sure everyone's happy with the sound levels.
Yeah, I was always the most quiet guy. So is it okay today?
Yeah, if Nighty's okay, we're all okay. I think that's usually the rule. What are we saying, guys? Is that all right?
Yeah, we good? Is my voice good?
Sounds fine. Can you turn Nighty up a tad? I mean, I can't turn him up specifically, but I can turn everyone up. So I will do that.
Yeah, you'll just have to hear our sexy voices a little louder.
I don't think there'll be any complaints at all, unless you got your subwoofer.
No worse things.
Unless you got your sub turned up, in which CG just might shake your house down. Right, cool, much better. That's great to hear. Right, so I guess we always like to start these podcasts off just with a little bit of a chit chat about North America, or about the continent in question. I mean, North America, I think it's a place where people are comfortable in certain locations, but very much struggle with others. I mean, in general, when you're playing, say, like a diverse world, what's your guys' thoughts on North America? Is it one of the harder continents, one of the easier ones? What's the thoughts?
I would say it's harder for most people especially to like get close. Like you can tell you're in U.S. or Canada or Mexico, but then you guess like the opposite side of the country every time.
That's the main issue.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
if you're doing country streaks and you're close to the US-Canada border.
Yeah, that is brutal. Yeah, I mean the points distribution is it can be savage at times, as we all know. Um, do you think? I mean, just overall, obviously, we're going to go through a lot of locations, some different metas and stuff to consider. But if there's one tip to take away when it comes to say guessing in North America, I mean, what's the general key to success? Is it learning the kind of regions and making guesses within kind of regions? Um, is it more about spotting certain types of license plates or road meta or signs? What's the best thing to keep in mind when you think you're in North America?
Sort of the way I look at it, this is more focused on the US, but if you sort of generally know how each region looks,
Yeah.
and then you can sort of narrow down which license plates to be looking for, because many of them can look pretty similar when they're blurred out. So if you know, oh, I'm in the Midwest, then you can say, okay, this license plate probably Michigan, for example. So I would say knowing regions is the top priority, and then little things like license plates, road signs would come second.
And also general landscape. If you're, for example, in a rather rural area, looking at the landscape, how does it look? Doesn't matter if it's Canada, if it's US. I mean, I personally am helpless almost in Mexico, for example, but Canada, US, general landscapes, and if you see in the US, for example, a state road sign, those are pretty easily to memorize. Most of them have the shape of the state, so no problem there then. But other than that, good luck.
Yeah, I definitely think Mexico can be particularly sneaky. I think I always end up either guessing Mexico City or Tabasco, and that's about about it. Um, but yeah, okay, brilliant. Well, I mean, I think we've all had our successes and failures in North America. You know, whether that's getting Canada when you guessed America, whether that's guessing somewhere in Argentina and it's actually Mexico, like I tend to do a lot, can be frustrating. But we're hoping to alleviate some of those pressures this evening. I mean, first and foremost, we are starting with the United States of America. I mean, this is the big one. I think this is the one that a lot of people think of as losing points on, because it can be very difficult at times. So it's nice to kick off here. I know, CG, you've put together some information that you'd like to share. I can see in a document here, so I'll kind of let you take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing to keep in mind with the U.S. is it's absolutely massive, right? So there's a huge range of climate zones and landscapes. What's important to keep in mind, most of the population and therefore a lot of the coverage, you can find it in the Northeast, Midwest, California, Florida, Texas. That's where a lot of the people live. There are sort of two main mountain ranges in the country. You've got the Rocky Mountains west, and you've got the Appalachians out in the east. And then the Rocky Mountains are a lot taller than the Appalachians. The Rockies are tens of thousands, well, not tens of thousands, but over 10,000 feet tall, generally, in a lot of places. Whereas the highest peaks in the Appalachians are more in the 5,000, 6,000 range. So those mountains are less striking in their appearance. So those are the two main mountain ranges. And then another good thing to keep in mind in the US is that in the middle, as you go further west, generally it gets more arid. So that's reflected in the amount of trees you'll see, the types of crops being grown, that kind of thing. You'll see more wheat and ranching out west, and then more around places like Illinois and Indiana and Iowa, you'll see dairy farms, soybeans and corn, things like that. So that's like a general perspective on the way the whole country is organized.
Okay, sweet. It's like an intro from a professor. That's very good. Fantastic. I know we've got plenty of different things to share here. I know obviously camera coverage is kind of something to talk about. I think before we go too much further, I know something I've started to pick up on more is. You're starting to see Gen 4 in America, and not, I mean, I say starting, it's probably been there for some time, but I think that there seems to be varying camera coverage. I mean, is there any particular meta around the camera coverage in America? Is there anything you can make any determinations based on the generation of the camera?
Yeah, so the camera generation that you almost never see in the US is Gen 2. And so that if you ever do get Gen 2, which is pretty rare, you'll generally see that on roads in Alaska. Also, some parts of Montana have a decent amount of Gen 2, but otherwise it's very, very rare to find any of it in other places in the country. The most common camera by far is Generation 3. You're going to see that all across the country in all sorts of places. Generation 4, you'll usually find it in big metro areas, sort of like the Northeast, and also on highways. But really, it can show up anywhere as well.
Yeah, classic Gen 3. Okay, cool. Yeah, one establishing thing about the States is, I guess, there isn't, as far as I'm aware, there isn't just some like defining meta that just helps you like nail anything down. There's definitely things that kind of point you in areas, but you don't have like a Guatemala state where you can just say, oh, this is this every single time, right? Which is sad for people like me who rely on that kind of stuff quite so heavily. But I mean, obviously, meta aside, you do have options such as signage, license plates, and the rest. I know that you've shared a document here with some road signs. So I'm going to bring that up, and if you want to talk us through it a little bit. Can you guys see it on the Discord screen share?
No.
I can.
Wait, maybe I'm missing something.
So can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
You in Discord, CG, in our chat room?
Oh, you have to join the share screen.
Oh, got it now.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So yeah, you can see this map shows the state highway shield for each state. So these are roads maintained by that state's Department of Transportation. Most of these there's just one variant. So these are the ones you've got to look for. If you ever see it, you'll know right away which state you're in. Some states have multiple variants. A good example is Louisiana. It can also be a black outline of the state instead of green, like you can see there. And North Dakota also has a variant with the state outline instead of a silhouette of a Native American there. So those are two kind of big variants. But generally, these are how they look, and if you ever see them, you'll know which state you're in.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I think we're all used to seeing the interstate signs, and the kind of the shield design is quite common. But I didn't realize there was like a kind of unique sign for pretty much every state in some way. How common are these? Let's just say you are driving around in that state. How commonly do these kind of signs crop up? Is it something that you're kind of going to come across quite often, or are they used sort of more sparsely?
Yeah,
you'll see these a lot if you travel around a bit. So yeah, they're pretty common roads.
Okay.
Also, an addition is in the southwest, you see a lot of Native American roads with another shield, most likely near or in reservations, but those aren't even on the map, so just an additional road.
That makes sense. Okay. Well, I think as we're saying, signs definitely one thing. That's a unique factor for each state, which definitely helps if you can see one of those. Something a little bit more common, where you hope to see it, is other cars on the road, and obviously with that potential to see some license plates. So we've got a little document here with the license plates for a few different states here. Let me bring that over. I don't. Now this might be my ignorance. I don't know of any other country that has like full blown graphics and stuff on their license plate. It does seem to be quite a US thing. Am I right in saying that?
I think Mexico also has them, but yeah, US definitely is the one that like has the most and the most variation and like the coolest looking ones.
So I think the one I'm aware of obviously is the kind of more yellow plates in New York, but I think that's about it. And obviously you've got the oranges on the Florida one. Are these the only really distinguishable license plates, or are there other ones to consider?
I would say these five are some of the most easy to recognize if you're ever thrown in a random place. The colors stand out a lot,
Yeah.
even when they're blurred out. There are some other states that you can learn to, but a lot of the license plates, the graphic kind of just fades in with the blur, so it can be kind of hard to pick out. But you get the hang of it as you look at each round more and more.
Okay, that makes sense. And then something else to consider with license plates, which is interesting, which is the 2-plate, 1-plate meta. And I wasn't even aware this was a thing, and it seems to be like a state enforced law. So there's a map here that actually shows this off. I'll zoom in just a little bit here. So this shows in what states are you required to have either the front and back of your car covered with license plates, or you're allowed to just have one. It's, I don't know if you could say it's a sort of less than a 50-50 split, but it's pretty close. Now, I heard you guys talking in the chat. There's somewhere that's actually optional to have whether or not you need to have one or two?
I heard that in New York, for example, it's optional. I think there is another state as well, but I don't know that. Maybe CG can tune in to that.
Yeah, I think it was Ohio that recently changed the law that you don't have to have a front license plate there anymore. But that's a really new thing that's just taking place. So there shouldn't be any coverage where that would be a major concern. But in a few years, that's going to start being a thing to look out for. Is no front plates in Ohio.
That is
so making things even worse.
That's the big news coming out of Ohio there. Cool. I've got 2 more images to share, but they are in our Google Docs. I'm just going to grab that over so you can see it. And these are regarding some of the interstates and highways on the map. So you guys can see that. So what is it you wanted to share about these interstates, for example?
So yeah, the picture there at the top, the sort of zoomed in map, that's to show what a auxiliary or a spur road for an interstate looks like. So you'll see the Interstate 190. It might be kind of hard to make out on your screens, but I-190 goes directly to O'Hare Airport right there, and that's a road that spurs off of I-90. So for a 3-digit interstate, the last 2 numbers refer to which interstate it's coming off of.
Ah, okay. That's pretty useful.
But different cities can have same numbers of 3-digit interstates. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, that's right.
Because many interstates traverse the whole country.
Okay. And I mean, Fashion Outlets of Chicago, is that affiliated with you at all, or is that something different?
Not particularly.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. I was just wondering if I could, maybe get some merch or something from there. But cool. So we've got another image here as well. What's going on with this one in particular? These seems to be like some of the major highways.
Yeah, so this one again might be a little hard to see, but it's showing the organization of the major interstates. And so the way the numbering works in the U.S. is odd numbered interstates usually run from north to south, and then east or even number interstates run east-west. And then so for the interstates that are odd, the lower numbered highways, for example, Interstate 5, you'll find that on the west coast, whereas I-95 you'll see on the east coast.
Right. Okay.
And then for even numbers, it's sort of the opposite but similar pattern. So you'll see lower numbers like I-10 in the south, and then I-90 will be in the north. So they're increasing in number in that direction.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good way of narrowing down where you are. If there isn't other types of signage, that's actually quite a decent hack it almost. Brilliant. Okay. Well, just going to move this back over onto my screen. So I think is there anything else you wanted to share? Kind of signs, meta, that sort of stuff before we move on to the locations, or are we ready to look over some states?
Yeah, I think we're ready for the states.
Fantastic. Right. Well, we are starting with none other than Alaska, of all places. Still not quite sure why it's as part of the US. Looks like it's Canada, but there you go. That's my confusion.
The Russians needed money.
Brilliant. Well, let's bring up our first location. So, I mean, Alaska. I barely guess here. It doesn't seem to crop up all that often, depending on what map you're playing. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the locations. I mean, you've given us a cracker to start with here.
So yeah, I think this was a good example of sort of how inland Alaska generally looks. You've got these really tall mountains, lots of coniferous forest around, and sort of a lot of coverage in Alaska has some fall colors. So you'll see yellow foliage on the trees, snow-capped mountains, that kind of stuff.
Is this like brand new coverage, or is this Gen 4? It's really good quality.
It's Gen 3.
Yeah, I think it's Gen 3, yeah.
My mind, this is like so much clearer than everything else. Maybe it's just the air. It's the clean air.
Yeah, on the bottom it says September 2011.
See, I saw 2020 Google. That's probably me being smooth brain. So yeah, if we're to take a look, obviously whereabouts in Alaska this is. So this was near Glacier View, and kind of definitely in the southern area of Alaska there, kind of very mountainous. You got the snow-topped mountains there, and obviously that's quite clearly demonstrated on the map. So should be a nice, easily recognizable location. We can look at something some more from the south coast here. Tell me about this one.
So yeah, this is from the sort of peninsula area around Juneau, and I think this is near Haines, Alaska. So here it looks more Pacific Northwest in a way, less classically northern looking. So you got more greenery. Still got lots of mountains around, and water is also a huge feature in this area. So yeah, I think this represents it pretty well.
Okay, yeah. I guess for me, like, I think I'd probably guess Canada, but I mean, is there anything that you'd say about this location that maybe like distinguishes it from Canada in particular, or is it just more about knowing this kind of area and knowing Alaska a bit more to be able to make that distinction?
I would say, yeah, it comes down to being more familiar with just sort of how Alaska looks and
Okay.
which roads have coverage, because there aren't too many of them,
Yeah.
especially in this area.
Same with Canada, with the
Yeah.
Pacific coast. There are not too many inlets in the Canadian area that where the roads are covered.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, just to give an idea of where that is on the map. And as I said, it was inland on the coast. Still very mountainous in this area as well. Cool. So we're going to look at a residential area. I didn't know these existed in Alaska personally, but there you go. So yeah, here we go. I'm pretty classic North America feel here. Is there anything you feel that you see in these kind of small residential areas in Alaska that helps you guess?
Not particularly. I guess the license plates would help out here. You got the yellow one there, and so those are pretty distinct to Alaska.
Okay.
And generally you got pretty small houses. They're not massive, really.
Yeah.
But generally it's more with just sort of the trees that are around and the types of homes.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a little rural town, village type thing, which, yeah, you're not going to mistake for too many other places. Okay, cool. This one's an interesting description, which is also, this is, I'll just show the locations a bit as well. This is...
Yeah, exactly, Fliss. This can't be New York because of the birch and pine trees all around.
Yeah.
Also, the houses are way more spread out.
Yeah, definitely, and they, from my interpretation at least, they do look a little bit more, you know, from a rural area, as CG rightly said, a little bit smaller. I guess the style doesn't look quite maybe as townhousey, that type of thing. And obviously this was here, in Anchorage, which is cool. So this this location is described in the document as crappy camera. This is official Google camera, but it looks terrible.
Yeah, so this is a new camera Google used to cover Anchorage, Fairbanks, and also the Parks Highway going up past Denali. So it just looks absolutely god-awful. But it's a very good way to know right off the bat that you're in Alaska.
Yeah, it's a bit. It does look a bit weird. It looks like they like printed the pictures out, then scanned them back into the computer, and then re-uploaded it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Probably didn't help at all either. Looks so oversaturated.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does look like it. But yeah, obviously,
Yeah, it's like Gen 4, but like they turned down the resolution to like 180 or not like 180.
it's Gen 5, which is a bloke out the sunroof with a flip phone, just spinning around erratically. So this is kind of a bit of camera method that does actually help you pinpoint where you are, which is interesting. Which you don't get too often in the US, which is so good to keep in mind. That is that's some real meta right there. If you got the Alaska camera meta, you're on another level. And this has got coverage in a couple different places. Say it again, 90?
Probably the camera was damaged when they drove or transported the car up there.
I don't know. I think they just like tested out this new one because it looks very similar to something like an RE would use.
They just paid some random bloke. So this is mostly in Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Highway 3, as the document says. So something to keep in mind. Cool. So we're going to move on from Alaska over to the Pacific Northwest. Let's have a look at our first location. So straight off the bat, quite a different look. Talk me through it, boys.
So yeah, you've got these again sort of coniferous trees. A lot of evergreens up in Washington and Oregon. Washington is the evergreen state after all. So you got lots of those around. You'll see mountains, especially near the coast, the Cascades. And yeah, it just generally has this kind of feel to it, these kinds of trees and grasses on the side of the road as well.
Okay, cool. I don't see the White House anywhere. Is that? I can't check. Don't worry, I'm not that thick. Even though some people in chat would have you believe. Let's have another location.
So yeah, this one is in Oregon, so a little bit further south. So you get sort of the Pacific Northwest agricultural style, I guess, or one version of it anyway. But again, you've got the same kind of trees around, same sort of mountains in the distance. But yeah, this is like a typical sort of suburban / ex-urban farming road, I guess.
Okay, yeah, very obviously. Yeah, lots of evidence. So farms around. Obviously got like a little bit of an orchard here. So to just give some context with two different locations. Obviously Washington is here, and Oregon is down here. And if we have, if you zoom out on one and have two in a tab, it does both. That's interesting. So this was sort of more around the Portland area, and this was kind of more a bit northern, obviously, and Washington as well. So similar, but not the same. And I guess depending on if you're playing let's say you're playing the North America map, is there a big difference between getting these two states points wise? Because I know in say like Diverse World, you'd do pretty well if you guessed Oregon, but it was Washington, right?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, I think these ones are pretty easy to recognize. So
something like 4-9 to 4-2.
Yeah, I mean,
something like that.
I think it's the kind of difference. If you're going for a 5K, like say somebody like Geoguessr would in this instance, then it's going to make the difference. Cool. So another location here, which is for Eastern Washington. So this is a bit more of an agricultural area.
Yeah. So with this kind of area, you'll notice it's quite different looking from the western part of the state. It gets pretty flat out here. It's quite dry, but there is a lot of agriculture around in this area. I'm not exactly sure what they grow out here, but there's lots of irrigation and things like that.
Potatoes, maybe. I don't know. It's definitely hidden. Yeah, I find there's a decent amount, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a lot of the US that has a similar feel to this, which is quite flat and kind of slightly dry looking when it comes to kind of these agricultural areas. Do you think if you were to get this location in any sort of challenge, is this something that you feel you'd kind of move towards Washington, or do you think this is easy to get mixed up with maybe some other places?
Probably Eastern Oregon, but because of the shrubbery on the side of the road and the special tarmac there, it's experience. But that's eastern half of Washington or Oregon for me.
Okay.
Also, there's a bollard there, isn't there?
There's a bollard?
Oh, I think there was, yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Let me reload this shit.
But yeah, I definitely agree that could be kind of mixed up with like Montana or something.
Is this the
That kind of
bollard we're
area
talking about, or
would be
is this something?
Yes. That I think is the Washington bollard.
There's a Washington
I-
bollard.
I've just learned about these myself as well, so I'm
Oh my
not super up
God.
on how they look, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the Washington one. So it's got like two white stripes on a brown post.
That's exciting. Exciting news in the bollard world. Brown post, white stripes, Washington. I want credit for your next 5K. Oh, that one's got one. Interesting. Well, I didn't know about that. So just give you some context of where that was. There you go. And then we're going to go look at another location in lovely Oregon. So this a similar kind of vibe, but it does feel different. Got these kind of little fluffy bushes. It seems like a little bit more dry as well.
Yeah, so this part of Oregon, I believe, is more dry than eastern Washington. There's also less agriculture out here, more of like a shrub kind of desert. You also got the mountains around as well.
Also, I don't know if it's just me, but like the soil in this area is like this weird like brownish red. I don't know if it has to do with like volcanoes, because there are some volcanoes in Oregon, but I have noticed that especially in Oregon around this area, you have like this weird soil color. It's like a blackish brownish red.
Yeah, it almost looks like northern Nevada-ish. Especially
Yeah,
that location.
What the hell is that? I'm intrigued all of a sudden. What's this thing?
Well, Rumi in the chat said Oregon bollards, so maybe that's an Oregon bollard.
Is this an Oregon bollard?
I'm not too sure.
Welcome to the Bean Boys Club, you beautiful bean.
I would never guess Oregon here.
Urban says he would never guess Oregon here. And I mean, he's got Indianapolis in his name. So, I mean, that is very telling. So this is called the Jordan Valley. And just kind of give a little bit of context as where it is. Obviously getting very close to Nevada, which is why they probably share some of those characteristics we're talking about. Interesting locations, but we're going to move on to California. Is everyone's favorite. That's where that's got Hollywood in it, isn't it? There we go. It is, right? Yeah. That's where.
Yeah.
Right, just sense checking myself there. Right, let's have a look at the first location. Things I know about California is they grow wine here. Lots of wine comes from here, and it's fucking warm as well, right? So that's if you guys need any help from me, that's my input. So over to the pros then. So this is a valley sort of area.
With the US.
Wait, these oranges?
I think they're apples, maybe.
I don't know.
Not sure.
I think they're oranges.
But yeah, lots of crops growing around here.
Maybe they are oranges. Huh?
So yeah, is this?
This is like the Central Valley area. It's like where the majority of like U.S. produce like is produced.
Okay, interesting. Is it true they call it Orange County?
That's like farther south though.
Oh, okay. I thought that was Florida, but there's a lot of oranges going on apparently. Okay, so obviously kind of flat here, but we do have some mountains and stuff in the background. Obviously, you know, as I said, produce being produced here, you're going to see a lot of farming. Let's give you an idea of where this is. California. Near Fresno. The lovely place of Fresno. We've got another location here from the Central Valley, which is quite a bit different.
Yeah, so I think this one is from further north in the valley, I think around Sacramento. So yeah, the foliage changes a little bit here.
Yeah.
But yeah, still very flat and lots of agriculture.
Yeah, it's
And
quite
I
a bit
believe it.
different.
Yeah.
Now we've got on some closer inspection. Is this a Californian bollard?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly.
Right, don't trust it. That is a suspect bollard. Somebody's put it there. Yeah, pretty interesting location, but again, yeah, as you said, kind of got a kind of characteristic sort of flat feel to it. And as I said, this was a little bit more northern, this location. And as you can see, here it is. Sweet. So moving on to the Bay Area. Now, is this where the cool people live, or is that other places?
That's where the tech people live.
Okay. The techies, right. Do you know what? If I was on a 10-second round and we were looking at this, I'd 100% put New Zealand.
Napa Valley NXP.
So what's some of the key characteristics of this sort of area then?
So what this area kind of stands out to me a lot. The Bay Area has a lot of different landscapes, but this is one of the more distinct ones in my opinion. You get these really green hills, but just covered in green grass. You got random palm trees scattered around as well. So this is on the east side of the bay, I believe. But yeah, just lots of green hills like this.
Yeah, it's kind of a Windows XP-ish location, which is nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's have a take a look there. Okay, so I take it the Bay Area is. Does the Bay Area refer to like San Francisco as like as a whole, or is it this like specific area here? Sort of around this Castro Valley and Hayward, this sort of Hayward, this sort of place. Because I guess I hear that term "bay" used a lot, but I don't know.
It's generally around the San Francisco Bay.
Okay, right, that makes sense. Cool. So we got SoCal here. I'm guessing the So in SoCal stands for Southern.
Yep.
Cool. And then you got NorCal. The only reason I know any of these things is because of the rivalries in the Super Smash Bros. Community between SoCal and NorCal. That's my only reference to those words. So this is again quite a bit different from the last location we looked at. Yeah, a lot drier. What else is there to see here?
Yeah, so it's drier here. Again, you got lots of sort of hills and mountains, and yeah, it just kind of has this look to it with the dryness and the grasses. And yeah, you'll find this in a lot of areas around LA, San Diego, that kind of region.
Yeah, this definitely reminds me. This reminds me of the kind of shit you see in YouTube vlogs. This is some kind of area it reminds me of. I guess this is quite a popular place to live because it's near Los Angeles, which is seems to attract a lot of different kinds of people. It's a lot sort of drier in this sort of area. And we've got a coastal location to have a look at as well. Very picturesque. I guess we've got more evidence of this kind of like the dryness and the kind of more orangey type of soil. Is there anything really distinctive about the coastline to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, Big Sur is really nice. It's kind of got these like cliffs on the sea. It's pretty famous for it. And yeah, just scenic views. Looks good with Gen 4.
Yeah, it's nice. Very nice. And then just to qualify where we're at, Here we are. So kind of almost a midway point between San Francisco and LA. Cool. So moving on to another region here, which is the Rockies. So we're going to start northern here. Now, my interpretation of the Rockies is definitely quite a distinct area in the US. I feel quite more comfortable guessing here. Not that I often get it right, but I think it's got quite a unique look. What do you guys think?
Oh, definitely. Easily recognize them either by the tall, snowy peaks or by in the north, it's rather a dry landscape with trees scattered around. Montana, Wyoming. The further south you go, the higher the peaks get, until Colorado. Then down to Arizona, it all dries out again. Yeah, but you can generally see where north and south is.
Okay, cool. I think the first location we're looking at is in Montana, which is kind of the northern Rockies. Is there? I mean, in terms of the Rockies, I mean, is there obviously playing and practicing and kind of knowing a little bit more about the areas that is going to help you? But I mean, is there any particular sort of are the mountains particularly you can pinpoint from the types of mountains? Is there obviously sort of some snow capped? Obviously the different kinds of how they form and stuff.
In western Wyoming, there's a famous mountain formation called the Grand Tetons, which are easily recognizable. Other than that, if you see spiky, snow-capped mountains, it's either Colorado, far north in the Glacier National Park, or in Canada.
Okay, sweet. So we've got a Colorado location to share here.
Yeah, Rockies can kind of range from like dry to, I wouldn't say like it's usually pretty dry in the Rockies, but this area looks particularly more deserty. Yeah, the farther you go south, generally, the more deserty it gets. So like New Mexico and Arizona, the Rockies there, they're a lot more like dry than in Montana or Idaho, I would say, where it's usually like more like grassy and like a lot of evergreen trees or like pine trees, really.
Okay. Very fancy bollard here. No comment on that. But I'm just saying that's my new meta. If anyone points that out in future. So yeah, this was Colorado. Moving on to the next location, we've got Utah, which we know they have nice license plates here. So this one I think is probably the most recognizable, or not saying recognizable, but like most distinctive looking location we've seen out since, you know, from the other two. She's kind of got these really bold looking rocks. Yeah, I mean, are these kind of quite common to see? Is Utah a particularly easy state to point out from some of the others? What do you think?
Not really.
Yeah, personally, I think Utah and Colorado especially can look pretty similar in the Rockies. I think Southeast Utah is pretty red looking, sort of around like Monument Valley and Arches National Park, that kind of area. But I believe this one's further north than that.
Okay.
See a bit of the red soil in the rocks.
Yeah, definitely. Apparently there's a place called Fruitland, which is interestingly named. And Utah. Can I just ask a question? Why aren't all the states in perfect, nice little neat boxes? This really stresses me out. What's Wyoming doing? It's like invading the corner of poor Utah here. Wyoming could have like a nice little box here, but I don't know. Do you know why this does this? What is sort of a line is this?
Probably the Mormons didn't have enough money to buy it.
Not good enough, if you ask me. Sort it out. I'm gonna write to Joe Biden, see if he does something about it. Cool. We've got a residential area from the Rockies. This to me just is like screams US. These kind of houses. This is just a very interesting location to me. Thanks for that, Garfield. Appreciate it. So I guess these. Am I right in saying these are like this is the burbs? This is sort of suburbs, or is this like a little town?
Yeah, this is the burbs.
This is the burbs. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, this is like a new development in, I guess, a relatively
Welcome to the
big
Bean
place
Boys
for
Club,
Wyoming
you
standards.
Beautiful bean.
Do you guys just not like second floors, or do these houses have second floors?
Nah, it's just for some reason like ranch style houses are common nowadays. I don't know.
Oh, okay, interesting. There we go. So yeah, kind of classic residential area in terms of the housing and the kind of road layout and whatnot. But I think obviously something to keep in mind is the backdrop here, which is these kind of like sort of soft rolling hills. The kind of
You can still see the outskirts of the Great Plains.
Yeah.
All grassy, a bit mountainous.
Yeah, and kind of that slightly dry, grassy look as well. And obviously keep an eye out for obnoxious camo trucks as well. Cool. That's the Rockies. Let's take a look at Southwest. So this is Arizona, New Mexico. What's NV? Nevada?
Nevada.
Okay.
Yep.
I think, do you know what? For some reason I wanted to say New Vegas. But I realised that's a Fallout game. Instead of
Probably the same area, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So we're looking at a location here in Arizona. To me, this has kind of got a Breaking Bad feel to it. I mean,
yeah, I'd say that's honestly a good way to describe it. You got the shrubs; it's very dry. Mountains around. One thing about Nevada is it's kind of they have a lot of basins in Nevada. A lot of random little stretches of mountains and then flat valleys in between. So that's one thing to look for if you're in Nevada. Otherwise, Arizona and New Mexico kind of look like this in a lot of the state.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And just to give you an idea of where this location is from, sort of more northern Arizona. It gets kind of brutally hot in these locations, from what I understand. So kind of explains some of the dryness. And we're going to have a look at a kind of a more metropolitan area, more of a residential type of area with people and houses and stuff. So housing style here is a little bit different. Is this just kind of is this a good idea of like the general style of these kind of residential areas around
It's a bit
here?
more Mexican influenced, I'd say, because that part of the US was for the longest time part of Mexico. and the architecture just stayed, let's say.
Okay, interesting. But as always, keep an eye out for your US flags if you're not sure. There are aplenty. Yeah, this is quite. This is in. I guess they haven't got grass here because it's too hot for it, and you'd have to constantly water it. Am I right in saying that? There's just a lot of stones instead.
Must be.
Oh look, this is what happens when you don't do the stone thing. Right, that makes more sense. It doesn't look quite as nice. Okay, well, yeah, we've got some palm trees. We don't like stairs, ranch-style houses, and some taekwondo center. Cool. Moving on. Texas. Now, I was first introduced to one of the best metas in Geoguessr, Texas pavement, from politics. I mean, what's the thought on Texas pavement? Is it real? Is it fake? Is it a false flag?
I think Texas pavement is pretty real. I think this location has a good example of it, if I remember right. This
is Central Texas.
Okay.
Talpa. This is from.
So yeah, if you look at the pavement, it kind of has a salt and pepper sort of look to it, I guess. That's one way of describing it.
That's such a good way of describing it. It's salt and pepper pavement.
Yeah, it's like speckled almost. Like it's very interesting looking. But yeah, I believe it is a very Texan thing.
Okay, interesting. Wow. This is from Central Texas. I mean, I guess I'm not sure that I would say this doesn't. I guess my brain doesn't say Texas immediately. Is there anything in particular about this, obviously outside of the pavement necessary, that would kind of say Texas for you?
Texas has like this weird, like dead-looking grass. Always, it's like yellowy and dead. And then a lot of these shrubs I've noticed in Texas. Texas just has a lot of dead-ish shrubs as well.
Texas, the dead state.
This is like central and like westernish, like northern, like in that panhandle area. Because like the rest, in the northern part you wouldn't get as many shrubs, but like it's like a lot more like dry and just dead looking in that area. Honestly, it's like one of the most boring looking areas of the US.
Just dead and boring. That's all you need to know about Texas. Okay, brilliant. We've got a location here from the west. Do you know what? Again, dead is the first thing that comes to mind here. Actually, interestingly enough, what's this little sign look like? Oh. Bit more salt and pepper, it seems. So it's a little bit similar to the last location. Quite flat, and you got some sort of mountains and hills and stuff in the distance. Yeah. And then we got location from the east, which is a little bit more different. Not quite as dead. Is Eastern Texas significantly different, or is there any other features around here to look out for? Or is it largely the same?
I would say Eastern Texas has a lot more in common with the sort of Gulf Coast area, like Louisiana, than it does with Central and Western, especially with the sort of coastal pines, and just you get a lot more trees and flat sort of rangeland like this.
Yeah, when you go like east of Austin and Dallas, like basically like east of that like north-south line, then you get into like this sort of looking area, and west of that would be like the plains, like just grass.
Yeah, they just get way more precipitation.
Okay. Cool. So that's Texas. I mean, this is grapeland apparently. We've had fruitland. Now we've got grapeland. We are sparing no no lands for you guys. Just kind of give you the location. Not too far outside of Palestine. For those that want to know. So, next locations are in the states are the Mid-South. I'm guessing AR is Arizona? No.
Arkansas.
Arkansas, right, yeah, because we already done it Arizona, and that's South. Arkansas. Okay, right, interesting. Cool, so let's have a look at the first one. So, what the fuck is going on the road?
I have no idea why they do this to roads. They do this in Georgia as well a lot. It's just they like will fill up the roads with like these cracks, like these things to like fill up the cracks. But then like they have to like repave the roads after like a year or two anyways. So I don't understand why they do it.
Yeah, it's quite distinct, and it just happens in places. It's not obviously specific to Kentucky.
I feel like I see it a lot more in the South, but I think that you can definitely see it all around the country.
Okay, interesting. So obviously this is Kentucky. This is where it feels like a very kind of farmy, agricultural type area. Anything to say apart from the wild pavements here?
So the way I kind of interpret this area is you got a lot of like rolling hills, a lot of grasslands. Kentucky's known as the bluegrass state, and so in the middle you get a lot of grasses. Tennessee looks like this as well, but when you go a little further south like that, you start to get more of those southern pines as well. And yeah, as you just pointed out, there's lots of horses in this area too.
Also horses. I'll keep that in mind for my farmyard speed runs. And just give you guys an idea of the location. There you go, in Kentucky. Cool. Moving on. I've got a residential area. So this is interesting. Immediately, and I feel like this is. Correct me if I'm wrong again, but it feels like you get more sort of porches in the house designs. Like the houses do look like significantly different, and the porches seem to be like a thing that a lot of them have.
I think that's kind of a cultural thing of the South. It's like back in the day, like people would just sit out on their porches in the evening. And a lot of the houses are these like one-story houses. And they're like usually pretty small, like these older style houses. So yeah.
More fancy truck meta. Got a church here. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, yeah, sitting a lot of these porches have chairs out the front. So yeah, it's like an interesting thing to note. I guess, yeah. Something I've seen. Cool. Let's get the next location up. So it's Arkansas. Is that the way to say it? Am I saying it correctly? Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. I always say it and I'm like, I must be saying that wrong. Arkansas. That's the correct pronunciation. Cool. Talk me through this location, guys.
A lot of these like southern pines, they're like these tall trees, and they're kind of recognizable. They're just like kind of strange looking. They're actually not here where you're looking right now.
Oh.
But yeah, most of the south is just like these taller trees that they're like, and it doesn't look like, I don't know. It's like looks wet. I don't know. Never mind.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't describe this location as looking dry, so no, I get what you're saying there, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Interesting stuff. Yeah, lots of pine, some rolling hills. We've got another Arkansas location here, which is a little bit different actually.
So yeah, one of the important things to remember about Arkansas is in the west, it's got the Ouachita and the Ozark Mountains, and so it might be a little bit of a surprise perhaps to some people, but you do get mountains that can kind of resemble the Appalachians when you get high up, but this is one of the more valley locations, just to sort of show the hills around.
They also creep a bit into Missouri.
Yeah.
Is Ozark is the show named after the place? Is that where the name comes from?
Yeah, but I think they filmed it in Georgia actually.
Oh, okay. Got a beef meta here. It's hard to find a cow on Geoguessr, you know. That's quite. I'm gonna have to save this location. Right, interesting stuff there. I think we've got one last location to have a look at. More Arkansas, but this time a little bit flatter. Yeah, this is. I mean, yeah. No rolling hills, nothing to see in the background. You can see for miles. Just to give you an idea of where this location is and where it sits. A little bit near Memphis, which is in eastern Arkansas. Cool. Well, that concludes Mid-South. So we're moving on to everyone's favourite, the Deep South and the Gulf Coast. So let's start with a location here in good old Boys Town, Alabama. Talk to me about Alabama. Is this the sweet? Is this the sweet home? I mean, they've got Twinkle. I don't know what that is advertising, but they've got some.
Yeah, not sure. It's like some guy named Twinkle, maybe. The South has a lot of red soil. It's like pretty famous for its red soil. I don't know why. But they say
Mississippi.
Yeah. And then you can kind of see here like the pines I was talking about, the really tall ones that like you don't have like many branches until you get to the top. So they're just kind of like sticks at the bottom, and then at the top they just have like over above all the other trees they have like this like branches sticking out.
Interesting, big stick matter. And just the context of where we are, kind of eastern Alabama here. So obviously this is on the coast, so we'll have a look at a coastal location, and yeah, this is so the only place I've ever been to in America is, as most British people will tell you, Florida, because there are some things there, and obviously immediately I start looking at these kind of like sandy locations and coastal locations, and that's kind of where my mind goes. What the fuck is that? Is that a water tower?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the main thing to say about this area is the houses, because they're all on stilts, as you can see, and they do that because The Gulf area, especially, is like hard hit by hurricanes a lot of the time. So, like
I see.
Florida and Louisiana and that area. And so, in case of flooding, they don't want like the first floor to flood, so they'll build their houses on these stilts.
It's interesting. Almost. I mean, we had the same meta in the Southeast Asia episode. I mean, building houses on stilts it causes saves you a lot of hassle when things go awry. Um, yeah, interesting location. So this is obviously coastal Alabama. Kind of a strange fucking place, if you ask me. Just by the looks.
Yeah, but that general landscape you can find from western Florida to eastern Texas on the Gulf Coast.
Okay. Very, very white sand, isn't it? Like very white looking sand.
Yeah.
Cool. We got a Florida location to have a look at. Excuse me. I'll be honest with you guys. This does not scream Florida to me in what my interpretation of what Florida looks like. So, what's some of the defining factors about this being Florida for you guys?
For me personally, I always keep in mind Florida is one of the flattest places in the country.
Okay.
There's basically no hills anywhere except in the very, very far reaches of the Panhandle, and even those are just like tiny little things. But yeah, in the main part of Florida, which I believe this location is in, it's very flat. They've got these sort of fields for agriculture. You also see lots of fruit trees as well, some like oranges and stuff like that. Yeah, this is one of the more field-like locations.
Central Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember, again, because one of my only actual experience I could share of the US, when I was at ye old Busch Gardens, bird meta, I do remember like going up on the top of some of the rides, and actually just like probably the best bit of the ride is the fact you could literally see for like miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, because it is just so flat. So actually, you saying that kind of triggered that memory of me thinking back at the time of like, there isn't anything. It's just like a big fucking sheet of paper, basically. Interesting. Okay, and cool. Just to kind of, because Florida is a big place. This is very central location. Interestingly. Cool.
The farther south you go in Florida, the more swampy it gets also.
Right.
Like the Everglades region.
That's interesting. Cool. Good tidbit there. Got some southern pines here. Are these the stick trees that you're referring to, Ars?
Yeah, these are the lovely southern pines.
They're pretty distinctive.
They just look very strange, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. The way to be fair, the way you described it was just pretty accurate. Fuck all. Oh, there we go. Some branches at the top. Cool. Right, let's look at a residential area then. Again, this is obviously Florida. So, I mean, kind of residential areas in Florida. And I mean, anything to make note of, or is there anything specific that you think sticks out about this part of the US?
This looks more northern Florida because there aren't many palm trees. I just saw one.
Yeah, I just seen one. Yeah.
But in general, even in the suburbs, in the urban areas, you can see palm trees everywhere in Florida.
Okay, so palm trees be something to keep a lookout for. Okay. Yeah, that's just a pretty good look. Cool. So moving on to another location. Right, this explain to me what is this delta? What's the delta? What does that mean?
It's this region around the Mississippi River, sort of in Arkansas and Mississippi and Tennessee. That's very flat. I believe it was historically a large cotton producing area. I'm not too sure, but it's very flat. Lots of sort of marshy looking landscapes.
Okay, interesting. And this is Mississippi, so just kind of give you an idea about where this is located. Oh yeah, you kind of got this like kind of cross section of the different states here, in and around there, which is interesting. We've got a Louisiana location to finish us off. Looks like some early morning coverage.
Yeah. So what's most distinct here is you've got the sort of embankment, which is helping to protect from flooding. You see those a lot in Louisiana, especially around the south, where it's extremely low lying and very prone to flooding as well.
Interesting. Kind of a the fog's making this kind of low key a little creepy. Yeah, this is fascinating actually. So this is like a man-made bank then. This kind of like incline, and that's to help prevent against flooding. That's interesting.
Yeah, like the Dutch also built the dikes.
Cool. Interesting location. American Netherlands, yes, Jay. Well, that is exact. Louisiana is often described as the Netherlands of America. Guys, all the bikes going past. Cool. So we've got the Atlantic coast. So let's have a look at a coastal forest here in New Jersey. I'm not going to do the accent or even attempt that. So, anything particularly iconic about this location? Anything to remark or make note of?
I would say, oh, go ahead.
You go.
Okay.
So
I would say you've got these sort of coastal pines here. They're not as tall or as branchless as the southern pines. They just have this very sort of compact feel to me, I guess. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it. But yeah, these pines you'll see a lot in the coastal regions of Jersey.
Yeah, they're like the stubby version of the other ones we saw.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And just kind of give a bit of perspective as in terms of where this actually is.
I'm going for a quick break.
No worries, Nancy. And obviously this is pretty central, but obviously quite near the coast. As far as the grand scheme of things is considered, it's got a southern coastal location here.
Yeah, so with this one, you'll notice it's kind of similar to the first one, but this time we do have more of the southern style of pine tree.
Yeah. Yeah, these are definitely a little bit more taller, which is interesting. Cool. Let's have a look at where this is located on the map for consistency. Yeah, so obviously, account for that difference. So obviously, this is in North Carolina. This pretty coastal location. Obviously, yeah, got some of those different kinds of pines. Could have a look at a residential area. Again in North Carolina. So immediately, I mean, maybe this is specific to this area, but kind of this red brick style of house. I mean, is this just this particular residential area, or is this something that feels kind of more common to the state?
I'd say in the South, there's a lot of red brick one-story houses.
Mm.
I wouldn't say like just North Carolina, but like anywhere in the South, really.
Okay. Loki, I think this is out of all the kind of residential areas and stuff. This place actually looks pretty sick to live in because obviously all the big trees and stuff. It does actually look pretty nice place to live. But yeah, the low story houses, the 1-story houses are again kind of quite consistent. Yeah, similar vibes. It's kind of different. I'm trying to work out what the bin meta is around here. I mean, that says Rocky Mount on it. So I'd be clicking in the Rockies. If I'm being completely honest with everyone. So we've got a northern residential area in comparison. So that was southern. This is going to be northern. So that was North Carolina. This is New Jersey. And I mean, a little bit different, obviously. Different kinds of trees. And the houses are a little bit different, but largely kind of similar-ish style. Yeah, very quaint. Cool. And then we've got the Delmarva Peninsula. I hope I've done the pronunciation justice. So what's going on with what's the deal with this location? It feels flat.
Yeah, so the Delmarva Peninsula is kind of that weird bit where Delaware is. It's also shared by Maryland and a little piece of Virginia for some reason. So that's how it got its name, with Delmarva, sort of Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. And it's very, very flat. They have lots of agriculture going on here. And again, you'll sort of see those kind of coastal looking trees around a bit here as well.
Interesting. And we've got the squiggly roads again. Okay, cool. Delaware. So, give a little bit of context to whereabouts this is located. Which is just below New Jersey. Cool. That was the Atlantic coast. So I think we're going to move on to the Appalachians. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay, phew. All right. Geez.
I think so.
Appalachians. Yeah. Okay. I've just occurred to me. I probably never said that out loud before. Cool. So we got West Virginia. What? Talk us through. Oh, I'll fill in 90s part of the commentary here. It looks quite dead. Yeah.
That was my part of the commentary.
Sorry.
But yeah,
So yeah, I mean, anything in particular to note? Kind of these weird styles of kind of hills and stuff. Is this quite common for the state?
yeah, I would say these kinds of hills. I think we're in West Virginia here, and yeah, it's the Appalachians aren't super tall mountains by any means, really. So they kind of just look like this sort of slightly taller hill. And that's just kind of the general vibe that I get from it. And I think West Virginia as a whole is a really good like microcosm of the entire range.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of got a sort of dry, wintry feel to it in this particular location. Let's have a look at where we are in general. So far more inland than our last couple of locations. I'm always attracted to whenever I think we're in the US in terms of guessing around this portion of the US, and I do find at least some maps seem to favour West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana. Is that something? I mean, I always feel like diverse world throws you there. Is that just my stupid brain trying to create some sort of pattern or bias, or is that something that you guys notice as well?
I personally, whenever I play the U.S. specific map, Simi's no blurry one, I feel like every time I'm in the Appalachians, 9 times out of 10, it's like West Virginia,
Okay.
maybe sometimes Pennsylvania. So yeah, maybe there is sort of a bias like that.
Yeah, interesting. Jermaine just says fucking hedges. I'll have you know there's nothing wrong with hedging, okay? This is a pan A positive podcast, the Triple P.
I'm back.
Talking to hedges, it's 90. Right. So got another location here. So this time in old Penny. Obviously some farmlands. I mean, anything particular you want to say about old Pennsylvania?
I think I put this location on. I'm pretty sure it's because Pennsylvania is one of the greatest places you can see the sort of ridge-style mountains. So you got these long sort of stretches of one like elongated mountain peak, and then a lot of valleys in between with agricultural activity.
Interesting.
And you can sort of see how those are formed from the ground here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like it's very like a kind of the road certainly cuts through here. Interesting location, and obviously just to show it on the map in reference to these kind of long stretches of hills and mountains. Yeah, pretty distinctive. I'm gonna keep that in mind because that's not something. That seems like pretty distinctive thing that you could notice, even for a smooth brain like me. So that's a cool location, actually.
Sometimes you get those areas in Western Virginia as well, though.
Okay. I mean, if I'm guessing Western Virginia and it's Pennsylvania, it's better than me dropping it down in old.
Oh, definitely.
Colorado, any other bloody place that I would probably usually go. But yeah, that's obviously something to keep in mind for this particular area. And obviously we've got a look here at a residential area. So it's kind of a general residential area. I'd say, well, maybe just it's a little bit of bias here for this particular location, but quite a bit different to what we've seen so far. Damn, this is this is straight out of a fucking horror movie. Essentially, what was the hell? Sorry, I've just got to go back and look at this car. Wait, where did it go? Oh, I've lost it. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, anything particular to say about this kind of West Virginia and in terms of the residential areas? Is there anything particular to say about it? Obviously, I think we're in some sort of like a little town here.
Yeah, typical Appalachian town. Nothing special about West Virginia. Could easily be in Pennsylvania as well. You get those small little towns everywhere in the Appalachians.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Right, moving on to the Great Plains. Now, Plains is a biome I know from Minecraft, but apparently also there's some really great ones here in the US. So let's have a look at our first location, which I believe is in eastern Montana. Talk me through it, boys. What's going on?
Typical rolling hills. Before the Rockies start, grassy hills. I think it was eroded many decades ago. Bison's grass there. Just the northern half of the plains in front of the Rockies.
Okay. So I guess kind of slightly, yeah, as you said, rolling underscore hills here. So nothing drastic. It's far from being flat, but it's kind of I'm probably going to get out of breath going up these, but these boys probably aren't. So I'll just kind of give you the idea of some of the gradients. If it's a Geowizard video, he'd be on his hands and knees, putting a cliffhanger onto the end of the episode as he's about to die, climbing up the side of that. Okay, cool. So just give some a qualifier as to where this is. Sorry, I am being mean again. Sorry, it's bad habits. So Montana. I mean, we've flown across the bloody state here. So Montana's quite bloody big, isn't it? Jesus.
Yeah, it's the same size as Germany, roughly.
Fucking hell. Okay, well there you go. That's scary to say the least. Is it quite? I guess it's quite sparsely populated as well. So I imagine there's not. You're not going to come across too many residential areas in there. Let's move on to. Well, talking of residential areas, we've got one here. This is Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is famous for, is it corn? Am I right? Oh,
Pretty much all that area. Nebraska, okay. Iowa. Like, when you think of corn, you just think of those. But,
my opinion is that Nebraska is famous for its grassy sand dunes.
Grassy sand, okay. The only reason I know anything about Nebraska is because Destiny, the streamer's from here, and I've spent a lot of time watching him. So he mentioned something about corn one time, so that's where my association comes from. I mean, anything particular to say about this residential area, or is this quite common for the kind of residential areas in this general kind of part of America?
Yeah, I would say this is a pretty typical one for just the entirety of the plains.
Okay.
Just kind of those houses and stereotypical suburbia looking kind of area.
Interesting. Cool. So we've got a more northern location here. So this is, I mean, quite handy. You guys have called it North and South Dakota. I find that quite useful, because they do in fact one's more northern, one's more southern. So this is an example of North Dakota. I mean, I think I speak on behalf of a few people in saying, what would you say kind of differentiates this from, say, guessing in old Winnipeg? Any key differences to keep in mind?
As I did the Canada one, which we get to later on, it's very deforested in the US part of the plains. whereas in Canada they kept a lot more of the trees in the plains.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, this is quite pretty sparse. I mean, you can see for quite a distance, and there ain't that much going on here. So, yeah, big old tratters. And
Good old John Deere.
yeah, John Deere. You need to be a computer hacker to do anything with the tractor. So this is Oklahoma, and again, I mean, if anything screams plains, it's this location. Yeah, again, very flat, wispy grass. Guess it's a kind of a lighter type of soil up north.
Yeah, I think the soil does get a little more reddish down in Oklahoma.
Sorry, just to clarify, who the fucking thought that was a snake? It's a bit of what do you mean false alarm? What? It's not going to come and bite you, Sim. God's sake. Or should I say, for God's snake? Right, next location. Now this is interesting. A surefire way to know you're in Oklahoma.
Ah, yes, the Oklahoma stop sign plate.
Whoa.
So yeah, if you ever see this on the back of a stop sign, you know you're in Oklahoma right away. So it's a good thing to look for if you're on a long abandoned highway. You come to one junction, make sure you check out the stop sign because it could have that, and you'll know you're in Oklahoma.
That's pretty useful. There you go, groundbreaking meta. What the? Okay. The stop sign, green sign thing. That is true. Yeah, the Simrod, I do agree with you, Sim. There is a lot of snakes in Geoguessr. It's very true. Right, moving on to another location. That's a good bit of meta there. Thank you. Black Hills. I'm gonna be disappointed if these aren't Black Hills, guys. Oh, another one for RC. This place is called Deadwood.
Yeah. These trees kind of look similar, but they're actually not that similar. Yeah, they are kind of tall, but I don't know. They're like a different species that you find, like, especially around the Black Hills and like Montana, Idaho. But yeah, this area is like surprisingly like forested for the Great Plains area. And it's like kind of hilly. There's like some like rocky hills.
Yeah, it's like a plateau or something.
Yeah. This is where Mount Rushmore is.
Right.
I bet you've heard of that probably.
That's the heads on the cliff.
Yeah.
That they make seem massive in the films, but they're not actually that big. As so I've heard. A little bit disappointing, I've heard. Sorry, Mount Rushmore. I'll just give you an idea of where that is. Oh yeah, Black Hills National Forest, right, that makes sense. Near Rapid City. I think they're pretty big. Well, apparently they're not quite as big as like you see in the films. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I saw on Reddit. All right, that's mock me. Right, we've got another location here. Well, the I-94, everyone's favourite. This is pretty. A little bit more kind of, I guess, exposed rock and stuff. Is this quite this kind of more mountainy type of, you know, not quite like these soft rolling hills, but more kind of mountainous? Is this common for the area?
Yeah, so this location is in North Dakota, I believe, and so western North Dakota and South Dakota as well have these sort of rock formations. They're known as Badlands, and there's actually 2 national parks with them. There's Theodore Roosevelt in North Dakota, and then there's Badlands National Park in South Dakota, and you kind of get these sort of small little pine tree looking things, and just sort of tannish and red outcroppings of rock.
Yeah,
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah, and when you go towards the mountains, it's almost like a landscape from the moon. No vegetation at all.
Huh. And this is called Badlands. It's funny because that's like at least two things that two kind of areas that they've copied from Minecraft now. Quite interesting. Cool. Right. Well, moving on to the Midwest. Somebody described me as looking like a Midwest hipster the other day. So I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult. Usually an insult when it's directed at me. But that's just the toxic Geoguessr community for you. So, first location is a residential area. Talk me through the Midwest, guys, or the upper Midwest, I should say. This is Wisconsin.
Flat. You see a few pine trees mixed with normal deciduous trees. It looks like the plains, but it's a bit more cold.
Okay. It's interesting houses, but I guess we like 2 stories here. That's what I'm taking away from this residential area. 2 stories are the place of what we're after.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just this particular location, but I think a lot of the upper Midwest towns do have these sort of large, 2-story sort of homes.
Yeah, true. So this is a residential area in Wisconsin. To give you an idea of where this is right here near some water. Looks pretty run down. No, this is what we were talking about with the hipsters in this kind of area. It's actually was brand spanking new about 2 years ago, but they've converted it to look a bit older because that's kind of gone for a more vintage look for it. So it's a little bit of information there for you. Bluffs. What does bluffs mean? Educate me. What are bluffs?
So I'm not exactly sure what exactly they are, but you find them along the Mississippi River, especially. And they just are quite strikingly prominent, I guess, compared to the rest of the landscape. You can get a good view of them from certain sides of the Mississippi.
Council bluffs. Okay. This is an interesting location. And this is the Mississippi River, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Bluff is a round cliff. Thank you, Ron. That's the bit. Sorry, that's the bit I was looking for. Round cliffs, guys. And here's a freight train. Interesting. Okay, got a location from old Minnesota. Can we behave in chat? Thank you. Right, this, flat, agricultural. Planet in this place is called Hector. Anything distinctive to say about this?
Not too much. Minnesota, especially the southern parts, it really just resembles a lot of the plains in the Midwest. Just kind of, flat farmland and a few trees here and there. But otherwise, yeah, not too much to see.
Okay, cool. I think the takeaway here, this is agriculture in the US is huge. And I know your agriculture's really subsidized by the government, right? Because there's so much of it, it's such a big part of some of your industries and stuff. So yeah, it's quite. I think what we're seeing a lot in a lot of these states and stuff is quite common to see farmland and little farms and bits and bobs all over the spot. Something I've taken away. So near Minneapolis. Cool. Another location coming up. I think Sim's trying to call your bluff, Nighty, in the chat.
I've seen that.
So this is Michigan. Quite a almost kind of dense, luscious type looking place. Is this kind of common for the whole of Michigan, or just this particular location?
Yeah, I think this landscape is mostly concentrated in northern Michigan, especially the Upper Peninsula, which I believe is where this one is.
Okay.
So yeah, you get a lot of pine trees and just sort of, yeah, as you mentioned, sort of like greenery, sort of compact and lush looking.
Interesting. Only a little squig here. I've not gone for the full squig. Cool. Interesting. And just to give a bit of context. Michigan here. And then we've got South Wisconsin, or more kind of southern Wisconsin. Looks a little bit drier. Kind of again, these sort of rolling hills. Farms. And this is, for context, just here. So across, Lake Michigan, right? Is this a lake? Wait, is this Lake Michigan as well? Wait a second. This is the same bit of this is the same bit of water.
Yeah, technically they're one big lake, but yeah, they're almost always referred to as Michigan and Huron. But yeah, I think technically, like hydrologically or whatever, they're all one body of water.
That word is amazing. Hydrologically. Yeah, thank you. We have exposed the bullshittery that is the Two Lakes scandal. Absolute bollocks.
There's also a really nice city on Lake Michigan. It's called Milwaukee. I don't know if you've heard of it.
What the fuck? Milwaukee? What? When did that get put there?
There's another city south of Milwaukee, but it's kind of irrelevant, you know.
Yeah, I think that one's called Kenosha, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Kenosha, right.
I mean, yeah, it is there when you zoom in on the map. It does say it, Kenosha. Okay. But I bet this is quite a nice place. Look, it's even got a place called Pleasant Prairie in it because it's so lovely. Apart from this, though, I mean, CG, do you have a preference for? I mean, which side of the lake do you prefer? Huron does look quite good, actually, doesn't it?
I've actually never made it up that way myself.
You know, so you're not team.
So I guess I'd be biased to say
you're not
Michigan.
Team Huron. Wait, does the border go through the middle of the lake?
The lake.
Yeah.
This is blowing my mind. What?
Ben is learning about the geography of the
Yeah,
US.
but surely you can break into. Nobody would know if you broke into Canada. You just go through here, look. Get on a boat and drive through. Am I not wrong? What separates?
It's so big, it's not that easy to drive just across.
Yeah, but it's not a wall in the middle of the lake, is there?
No, but they have very strong winds.
What a protective wind! What is it? A wave pool? I'm confused now. I don't believe this is a real thing.
It's more like real storms.
What, on a lake?
Yes, that those lakes are huge. They are almost double the size of the English Channel.
No, it's not. It's like, look, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9 mouses. That's not that big. All right. You guys are winding me up, so I think we're going to move on. I think we've got a location here in South Michigan. Anything particular to say about this one?
Not too much. You can see it kind of has those sort of pine trees as well here.
But not
more
as
of an
dense as in the
agricultural
Upper
type.
Peninsula in Michigan.
Cool. And just to give some context as to where that is. There you go. Close to Detroit, which I think is everyone's favourite city in the area. Cool. That's sums up for Upper Midwest. What a lovely place. Big lakes and all the rest. Now looking at the Midwest. Wait, I'm trying to work out what IA is.
That's Iowa.
Wait, Iowa's IA? I thought Iowa's.
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, oh, sorry. I was thinking. Don't ask why. I thought Iowa and Ohio were the same thing for a second in my head, but no, they are different. Cool. So, tell me a bit about the Midwest region, and we'll start by having a look at Iowa itself. Can't say.
Oh, I did put an Iowa location on here. I thought
You did.
I thought I had avoided it. but
I
guess
can't
not.
believe this.
This is. Why
think
did
Iowa
Slipknot
is
write
the
a whole
sexiest
album
state.
about this place? What's going on here that warrants an album being wrote about it?
I think one of the interesting things about Iowa, of the very few that there are, is that there's lots of wind energy production in Iowa. I believe over half of their electricity comes from wind turbines. So you'll see those around a decent bit in Iowa.
Okay,
But
yeah.
otherwise, very flat. Lots of corn, lots of soybeans.
Fucking hell, shit! There's loads
That's
of them.
about it.
Yeah, you weren't making that up. I don't know why you would make it up. But yeah, just to prove the point, yeah, loads of windmills. Got another general location here. This time in Illinois. Is Illinois slightly more interesting than Iowa?
Oh, by far, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of more of the same. I think Illinois has more soybeans than any other state. I might be wrong about that, but they're a big soybean producing state.
More beans than other state. Now that is a claim to fame right there. I can back that.
Now you're all ears, I know.
Yeah, now I tell you what. Now I'm interested. Yeah, I guess anything in particular that help you differentiate kind of, this place kind of from any of the other sort of flat agricultural places in the US. Anything that you'd say is distinctive, or is it just a case of learning the kind of minutiae?
Yeah, I think it's mostly minutiae. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's probably a little bit more trees in like Illinois and Indiana compared to say Iowa.
Okay.
But I could be wrong about that.
Damn, more beans, more trees. Okay, got another Illinois location. This time, this one seems a little bit more, or it is residential. What differences can we spot with the houses? I think we're seeing a return to form on the single floor meta. We'll go with the description, a dead description here. Yeah, I guess nothing too major to pick out. This
A few
kind of
pine trees
the winter
here and there, so not too southern.
Yeah, winter coverage makes it a little bit more difficult to point some stuff out. There you go, so more residential area. Southern Missouri, and we're going back to the Ozarks. So this is Houston, Missouri. Wait a second. Houston, Missouri. How many Houstons are there?
Probably quite a few, honestly.
Oh my god, this is so confusing.
But yeah, in the south part of Missouri, you get more hills, more forests with the Ozarks and all that. Looks vaguely southern. Like you can sort of see it's like a transitional sort of landscape between Midwest and South, I guess.
Let's take a look at this on the map. There it is, Houston. There's a forest named after Mark Twain. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's from Missouri.
Oh look, and they've named a road after Boss Baby. Just called it Boss. That's very good. And another Salem. There's like 1,400 of these as well. Everything's called Salem or Salem. Salem? I don't know. Southern Indiana is what we're gonna have a look at next. This has got a very foresty feel to it. Don't worry, guys. Not snakes on the roads. Don't panic. So this is Nashville. I mean, foresty and hilly. Is that a fair way to describe most of Indiana and Nashville?
I would say in the south part of the state, you get more hills and forests like this.
The northern part is more flat.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So southern, foresty and hilly. And then just take a look at this on the map. Yeah, you can kind of see the kind of the density of the forest and stuff around this little area. And then we're gonna look more we've got some Ohio this time around. Talk to me about this. This feels a little bit different to what we've been looking at for the last couple of locations.
Yeah, so in southeastern Ohio, you get more sort of like spillover of the Appalachians, I guess. So it's more hilly, more forested. Kind of has like the Kentucky, West Virginia sort of vibes going on.
Cool. And now just kind of have a look at Ohio on a map. It's a big old boy, Ohio. Is the size of it one of that kind of meme? I don't know if you've seen it, where it's like I don't know what, I just saw it on Twitter, and it's like, you know, like earlier in the year when the astronauts meme was a big thing, and it's like somebody putting the astronauts with the guns, and they're like, wait, it's all Ohio? Yeah, it always has been. Is that just because the sheer damn size of the place, or am I missing out on some meta American?
Weren't most of the astronauts from Ohio?
Yeah, actually, a lot of them are.
Could be.
Well,
I think Ohio's just like.
I mean, it's so boring there. What can you do except becoming an astronaut?
and this is why you won Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. No. Right. Well, I think that concludes a look at the Midwest. We're moving on to New England. Not sure where the name comes from, but this has got plenty of different places in there. So we're going to look at a typical New England town, as our document says. This is quite distinctive looking. Do you guys agree?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
You get the autumnal colors. Color of the leaves are changing. I mean, of course, the roads, because the temperature differences that start between summer and winter, and also those houses with the pointy towers, like a wooden mansion or something like that.
Also, the yellow house we saw on the left, that house is like pretty standard New England. Also, this White House, they just are like usually like several stories, and they have like a pretty like tall roof usually.
Yeah, they're quite pretty actually. Yeah, this. Oh look, here's another example of the. What would you call this? What's the actual term for it? I don't want to say like a tower because it's not, is it? But there must be some term for this design. It's quite unique. Matchbox houses as a way of describing these types of houses, which is interesting. Thank you for that, Romney. Yeah, it's quite a pleasant looking place. I don't know what this looks like inside. This must look fucking weird from on the inside.
Yeah, it looks like a probably 17th century house, but just built modern style.
Hey, what are they moving in with? So I'm just trying to read what the trash says. Made in Malaysia. Well, we know all about that.
Ooh.
Thank you to the previous podcast, which can be found
Shortly on a break.
on YouTube. All right, Nathan. Cool. Vermont and New Hampshire is what we're going to look at next. Do you know? Legitimately, I would have said if this was a location in a no move challenge, no move, no pan zoom, I'd probably say fucking Sweden, just from that snapshot. But we take a bigger look at things. More is revealed. Anything you guys want to share about this location in particular?
So in New England, Vermont, and New Hampshire are very mountainous, and you also get sort of like these little farms here and there as well. But yeah, lots of greenery and mountains.
Okay,
And I guess that's where the name comes from, Vermont, Green Mountain.
interesting. Just kind of give you context of where that actually is. Yeah, very, very northern, very close to Canada. I do think this part of the US is very distinct looking, for sure. It's got like a particularly interesting look. Cool. Western Mass. I'm assuming Western Mass is a way of saying Western Massachusetts. Damn, more autumnal vibes here, but again, we've got examples of some rather big hills, and it's quite common, I guess, for Massachusetts to be hilly, right?
Yeah, in the western parts, it gets pretty hilly.
Okay, cool. And yeah, as you can see on the case on the map here, and that's where the location is. And taking a look in Maine, quite quite a cute little location here. Low key, this is quite this little picturesque garden and lake. This is well good. So this
New England has a lot of inlets, especially Maine. So you'll see like these like stretches like around the coast. Yeah, Simraj, it does look a little bit like Newfoundland, but I would say it's a lot more like covered in trees. I think like where you find this in Newfoundland, it's not quite as forested.
Interesting. Yeah, very, very pretty location. Yeah, interesting. Cool. So have a look in New York. Example of NY Mountains. So these sort of like are they? Again, is it quite a heavily forested area around here?
Yeah, so in eastern New York, especially pretty far upstate, you get pretty tall mountains and yeah, very forested. So you got the Catskills and the Adirondacks.
Let's have a look at that on the map. There you go. So
And I'm back.
high 90. We're just talking about the mountains in New York. I'm going to have a look at some agriculture as well.
Adirondacks.
Now, yellow plates. This is what we mentioned earlier. Not to be confused with Alaska. As you can see, looks quite different from Alaska. So hopefully you shouldn't be getting too confused here. So I guess this is an example of something that's a bit more agricultural in the state. As you can see, farm with a silo, which is pretty common to see. Yeah, there's that. Cool. That almost concludes our locations. We've got a couple of things to note here. So this there's a category called obscurities. I'm definitely going to need your guys' input to go through these. What's so interesting about this particular car?
So this car, as far as I know, it's only found in Nevada, Arizona, and California, and not throughout the whole state, but limited to kind of specific areas.
Okay.
I've seen it in western Nevada, kind of near Reno, Carson City area, and then also I forget which highway it is, but one of the interstates in Arizona and California also has this car, and I'm sure there's other spots, but in that general area is where you'll see it.
Interesting. So yeah, we've got some exposed kind of I don't know, little clips or something there. And we've got an antenna, black and white with the brakes. It's quite distinctive looking vehicle. So that's a little bit of meta if you're good at retaining that kind of knowledge. There you go. And some more car stuff. Now this is strange. This is weird. What's going on here?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what the deal is with this car, but you find it in random little forest roads along the Mississippi. I think mostly in Iowa and Illinois. It might be in other places, but that's where I've seen it the most. Yeah, very, very interesting car, and one that probably most people wouldn't expect to find in the U.S.
Huh. Yeah, this definitely I would. The problem is when you get this kind of vehicle. I don't know if this is included on Diverse World or not. I don't think I've ever seen this before. But if you get this sort of vehicle in a challenge, you immediately think, what obscure like island or weird thing is this from? But yeah, not always the case. So yeah, a little bit of a tip and a trick there. And it's a pretty unique looking car actually. Yeah, so something to keep in mind. Cool. I mean, that concludes America, I think. Wait, is Newfoundland? Or what are these? What's this France thing in the document?
It's two small islands off the coast of Newfoundland, of Canada. It's the North
that's
America,
part of.
so
Okay, right.
and
Well,
it's also in many maps.
I see. I understand. Right. I'm just gonna, for guys watching the stream, we're just gonna take a 2-second break. So we'll be back in just a second. So hold your horses, don't go anywhere, and we'll see you in just a moment.